This is our video on 4G, intersection of the lines and parabolas. And so I have here an example of a parabola, a quadratic equation, and just a regular line that is horizontal, right? That y equals 4 looks like that. Okay, so algebraically to do this, we use the substitution method of simultaneous equations to make a quadratic equation equal to 0. So these are both equal to y. So I can put this 4 where that y is. I go 4 equals x squared minus 3x. And then I subtract the 4 to get it on the other side. You might recognize this from your exam. Okay? Then I factorize or use the quadratic formula to find the x coordinates of this quadratic, which will turn out to be the intersections, usually, of the line and the parabola. So I'm going to factorize this using the zero product property after. Make sure you understand what I just did. Then I substitute those values that I got into either one of the equations. Well, there's no x in this one, so it won't work. Sometimes it is. So I'm going to substitute them into the top equation. So I'm going to do y equals 4 squared minus 3 times 4, and y equals negative 1 squared minus 3 times negative 1. And I want to be really careful when I'm using negatives to use brackets there so I don't get it wrong. So this is going to be 16 minus 12, or 4. And so that point is 4, 4. And this point is negative 1 squared is positive 1, and then negative times positive is a positive, so plus 3 is also 4. I guess I could have realized that because it says y equals 4. Okay, I'm going to pause for a minute because we're going to check using Desmos. So hang on one second. Okay, I went a little bit insane. I was thinking I could get Desmos on here at the same time, and I can't remember how to do it. At any rate, when I check on Desmos, and you can just go on to Desmos and type in these two equations, you know how to do it. When you graph the first one, it's going to go through 0 and 3 and look like that. And when you graph y equals 4, it'll be a bit up here, won't it? I'll get 2 points. And one of the points is negative 1, 4, and the other point of intersection is 4, 4. So you can see that. So that brings us to graphically solving. So there's two things we have to learn, two vocabulary words. A line that hits a curve twice is called a secant. So this line here is a secant because it hits the curve twice. And a line that intersects the curve in exactly one place is called a tangent. So that's what that is. And then there would be one answer here where these just hit one time. Of course, this one would have 0 points of intersection because they don't hit. So when I solved the quadratic equation where I set that equal to that, those two equations, I would get a negative under the square root. So that would mean that, you know, the b squared minus 4ac, the discriminant, would be negative in this instance if I was solving the simultaneous equations. When there's one point of intersection, same thing, the discriminant that I get by setting these two equations simultaneously solving would be 0, and this one would be greater than 0. Okay, so just like we did before, except I'm starting out with the simultaneous equations first. Okay, here we go. Let's do this example. It's 5C from your textbook. It's a little bit more complicated because I can't use the substitution method really easily. I'm actually going to take this and I'm going to place it where the y is, just like I would have in a regular substitution question. And I get 2x minus 3 times bracket x squared plus 1. So that replaced the y because it's equal to y, equals negative 4. And I'm going to quickly use algebra. You might want to pause for a minute if it's too fast, to get everything on one side equal to 0. Okay, and I think that that's good. You need to check that and make sure it's right. And then I'd either use the quadratic formula or I'd use factorizing. And I think this is the way. Let's see, let's check that. That's 1x there, and negative 3x gives me negative 2x. So I've factorized that correctly. I know I did it quickly. And then I set each one equal to 0. So I get 3x plus 1 equals 0, which gives me 3x equals negative 1, or x equals negative 1/3. Okay? And for this one, I get x equals 1. Now, I'm going to take those values and I'm going to place them back in here and get my y. I think it's easiest to place it there because it's already solved for y. So I'll go y equals negative 1/3 squared plus 1. So that gives me y equals, when you square a fraction, you square the top and square the bottom. So I get 1/9 plus, and I'm not going to write 1, I'm going to write 9 over 9 because that is also 1 and it's already getting me a common denominator. So I get 10 over 9. So one of the points is what I started with, negative 1/3 and 10 over 9. And the other point is when I put 1 in here. When I put 1 in there, I get 1 squared plus 1, which is just 2. So those are my 2 points. Okay, all of these questions, 7C, and I have here watch example 16 from your textbook and take notes. So you can go on to your textbook and, you know, it's this situation where next to example 16, there'll be a blue box with a circle and an arrow in it to watch a video. Go on and watch number 16 and watch number 17A, same thing, the blue box with the white arrow, and take notes on that. Use your headphones, and then these are the problems I want you to do after. Thanks, girls.